Good evening, it's Rachel Flower here from Excluded UK with another episode of our Raw and Real series. I'm really delighted tonight to be joined by Mark Whittaker. He is one of our members from the Excluded UK Community, who unfortunately the club nobody really wanted to join. We've all been excluded from the government financial measures during the coronavirus pandemic. We wanted to tell the stories from a very human perspective so that people out there can see that it's had a very difficult impact on both businesses and individuals and families to not have any financial support now coming into households for over 3 months. So Mark, thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure. A bit nerve-wracking, but it's a pleasure.
I know, and it's Friday night, so we're going to let you go and relax for the evening soon. But in fact, you're going to be speaking to the BBC on Monday to get your story out even further. So I convinced you this would be great practice to come and have a conversation with me. So if you could just start off, Mark, by telling people about your business and well, the business that you set up and had to close down when the pandemic lockdown happened.
Without going into reams and reams of detail, I've been employed for getting on for 40 years, just to, like most other people as an employee. I took the step in October 2018 to set up my own little business as a self-employed blind and curtain fitter, and it was going really well. So pleased with it. It's daunting like it is for everybody that takes that step. It's nerve-wracking, it's terrifying, it's everything. It consumes your life, but I was happy doing it and it was very fulfilling and everything was going as well as I could possibly hope for. Then obviously the bomb dropped. I was terrified along with everybody else, I've no doubt, about how things were going to turn out. Firstly, from a health point of view, and then your second thought is, goodness me, what's going to happen to my livelihood? What's going to happen to my business? How am I going to have one? And what we're going to come out the other side? What things going to look like? I'm going to have a house. I'm going to have a vehicle. I'm going to have a holiday. Everything. Those everyday worries that everybody has. But I took great comfort from the Chancellor's words. That nobody would be left behind, that he would do whatever it takes, and there would be no limits imposed on the amount of help that the state, the government would provide. And then we find out actually the devil's in the detail, and actually it applies to most people. Now, forgive me, but my definition of all is all. It's not most, it's all. And I simply cannot understand how this can be even contemplated by a British Chancellor. I find it shameful, to be honest. And sometimes at the moment, I'm ashamed to be British. I think it's that profound a betrayal of honest, hard-working people. I can't comprehend it, frankly.
Okay, thanks, Mark. So I want to make it clear to people watching, because you've just highlighted a really important point, because the message coming out from the government is, we've done a great job, we've helped so many people. As you say, most of the people have been helped, but not all. So for people watching, the reason you were excluded from the self-employed scheme, you set up your business in 2018, so you did have a 2018-19 tax return that you'd submitted.
Indeed, I did,
but because you'd set up in that year, you had more than 50% of your income from your previous role. As you've said, you were working in that role for 40 years.
Yeah.
Very brave move to set up in self-employment. And the self-employed scheme rules say that if you've got 50% or more of your income from a role, you're automatically excluded. You get zero.
You get zero, that's correct. Again, who can possibly make sense of that? I certainly can't. I did what I've always been obliged to do. I either paid tax at source, i.e. my employer took it, and latterly, from a self-employed perspective, I engaged an accountant. I submitted my accounts for 18-19, which included, off the top of my head, 60% employed time and 60% and 40% self-employed time. Because one was slightly more than the other, i.e. the employed amount was over the self-employed amount, that eliminates you, disbars you from any government support. It's absolutely flabbergasting. I can't find words to describe it. If they wanted to check, I'm going to be selfish for a moment. I'm use my case because I'm aware, I know about the facts and the figures of it. If they wanted to check whether what I paid was legitimate, bring up my 18-19 tax return. They've done that and said, well, actually, because you're 59%, whatever, 41%, you're entitled to nothing. Now, I appealed that, and I got a call from a lady from the Inland Revenue who said, what can I do for you? I said, well, I'm desperate here. I'm receiving no help from you. Can I not submit my 19/20 accounts to show you that since October 18, I am fully, totally, 100% self-employed? I'm sorry, she said, the government aren't accepting 19/20 returns. So it just seems that whichever way you turn and whatever solutions as an individual or a group you come up with, the government simply aren't prepared to listen. The intransigence and the inflexibility, it's baffling. I simply don't understand why they're trying to exclude a huge swathe of the working population. We all pay our taxes one way or the other. The fact that I've paid mine and you paid yours maybe slightly differently than the majority, let's call it, why does that disbar us from any help whatsoever?
I know how passionate you are about this, and it's heartbreaking. And I was on the Jeremy Vine show today, and we heard somebody from the Treasury say that rule is in place to prevent fraud. So, I don't want to inflame you even more, because I know how angry and emotional you get on this, and we all do. But that's really unfair, isn't it?
Well, Rachel, all I would say to that is, if fraud prevention was their be all and end all, if that was criteria number one, then nobody in the country should have received any financial assistance from the government. Just because, I'll say it again, just because my tax setup, I don't make the rules, I follow them. If I'm obliged to do things in a certain way, I follow the government rules. How can that possibly be used against me? It's nonsense. I'll say it again though, but the fraud aspect of it, to use that as just a blanket to throw over people that have done absolutely nothing wrong. How is that logical?
I hope you're going to believe me when you watch this back and say, I so wanted you to come on and your voice being heard. Through meeting you on social media, I could tell you were one of the nicest, most genuine, hardworking people I've ever met. I knew that, and you've come into the group and you've helped people. And in case people didn't catch it at the start of this, you set up a company fitting curtains, blinds, going into people's homes. When the pandemic hit, obviously your business couldn't open, and it would have been dangerous for you to carry on doing that. So you've been forcibly closed down, stopped working by the economy. You've done your civic duty and stayed home. And what I want people to hear loud and clear is that you've tried every avenue to get help, and it is disgusting and shameful. I hope people at home can agree. You did manage to access a little bit of help through universal credit, so arguably one of the lucky ones. It was around £400 per month, is that right?
Fully enough, I was telling the chat from the BBC earlier on, I've finished the claim as of this afternoon, because frankly, I shouldn't really spout about what I get and what other people get. The claim was worth, in total, from the end of March, or the day that the bomb dropped, should we say, I've received in total just over £500. Now, in total, That's total.
Right.
I'm not going to go into details about the whys and the wherefores, but for anybody that thinks in any event that £409 can support a church mouse for a month, then they're not living in the same world that I'm living in.
Well, it's
However,
multiple issues, isn't it? It's supporting you as an individual, as an income support, which is what the furlough and the self-employed scheme is going to be. But actually, it's your business, so you've still got business overheads and costs, and you've already ploughed all your savings into your business. I know, to buy your van and your stock, and you work from home. Essentially, because you go out to people's houses, but you haven't got premises, so you didn't qualify.
No, nothing like that. No. I mean, as I say, I'm talking about myself, which I don't particularly want to do, simply because I don't have access to other people's intimate details about things like this. But to be really honest, what's tipped the boat on why I'm doing this now, speaking to you and speaking to the BBC? I was almost in tears the other night. There's a guy on our forum saying, I hope he doesn't mind me saying so. It makes me feel up thinking about it. He was driving around Woodland, subconsciously looking for a place to take his life. I mean, I don't know where you go from there.
I know, you're going to make me cry. I've done enough crying today.
It makes me.
I know, we've all struggled one way as a collective. We're trying to support one another, but it is hard. And, I know you've had dark days as well, which originally was one of the reasons you didn't want to come and do this live conversation with me. It's hard to talk about this in public, in front of people. We've talked about actually, particularly if you are hardworking and you've been paying your taxes for years, you're used to standing in your own 2 feet. So none of us like the idea of having to take support, but, had no choice. And then to find out that you're not eligible for support. And you're absolutely right that the emotional toil, the effect it's had on people's health, and then this message from the government about we all need to look forward and bounce back. It's very difficult to bounce back.
Well, they would say that, wouldn't they, from a position of strength? And if they're one of the ones in that strong position, it's very, very easy to tell people who are not in that position to grit your teeth, get a stiff upper lip, move forward, and we'll all get through this. What they're actually saying is, we'll get through this, you might not. We've now become, and it's been said today, we're collateral damage. People may lose their jobs, people may lose their homes, people may lose their businesses. Just 1 second, these aren't arbitrary and imaginary aspects. These are people's lives and businesses. How can they be so flippant and blasé when it's real life for literally millions of people? It's so crass and so it's unworthy of a British government. I simply can't fathom how we've got to a situation where it's okay as long as the majority are doing all right. I thought we were all in it together. Well, I'll say it again. All, as far as I'm concerned, means all, not most or some. It means all. How can you leave people in this situation? How can you leave them adrift? How can you leave them without the means to feed the children? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. They're hiding behind statistics, and they jump up and say, every time something's mentioned to them and there's some criticism, they switch it instantly to, well, look at what we have done. Everybody is aware of what they have done, but why has a line been drawn? Why is it stopped? Why have we not included everybody? If we're an inclusive society, then include everybody. It's simple. I don't know what kind of country do we want to be? Do we want division? I think we've got enough of that already at the moment. Do we want some more where people have and some people haven't? How do these people sleep at night? I don't understand it. I really don't understand it.
I think that's also been a big struggle for people, isn't it? That if there was a rationale, if there was a policy, a reason given why the exclusions had happened that made sense, I think we would find it easier to live with. And I hope you well, I hope I think you've explained it beautifully, but I hope people at home can see that this example of the 50% rule is one of the ones that just absolutely makes no sense at all. We spoke about it today again on the Jeremy Vine show about the newly employed people that don't have full accounts for the year. HMRC could easily be allowed to take the last year's accounts.
Of course.
It's not complicated. So that's the other reason. The excuses seem to have been, we're trying to stop fraud. It's too complicated. We did things really quickly and we've done them really well. And now we say at Excluded UK, we do think you've done a good job. A majority of people have been helped, but there are people who haven't, and it is time now to fix the problems.
Absolutely.
And look back. It's not about looking forward and leaving those people behind. There is time still to fix the wrong.
Absolutely. I mean, the point was, I think we all appreciate there were decisions made by the government on the hoof. They made them quickly. That's fine. Nobody in the right way of thinking, the way I think, is going to criticize them for that. However, 3 months down the line, surely it's about time they turned backwards and looked, actually, we didn't quite get him, her, him, that business, that business, that business, that business. What can we do to put the situation right? Nobody's blaming them for the speed of the decision, but I am going to blame them should they not choose to put this horrible, horrible situation right. The power's in their hands.
Agreed.
The power's in their hands. We can only ask nicely, I guess.
And I think that's why we keep fighting on, isn't it? Because it's like giving the benefit of the doubt of saying, you know, this is your chance now. The Treasury report has been published. You can't say anymore that you don't know that the gaps exist. In fact, the Treasury report quantified over 1 million people are excluded. We think, based on the statistics that we've pulled together, that it could be as many as 3 million people. And as you say, that is not acceptable. So we will keep fighting on, Mark. We will keep getting these voices heard. You have been amazing coming on here tonight. I'm sure, you know, obviously everyone within the group will be very grateful to you for being their voice. I'm very grateful, and the purpose of doing these raw and real sessions is for people watching this, please, to share with your friends and your family, for them to listen to Mark, and next time they pick up the paper or they're listening to the news and they hear the government say, we've done an amazing job, we've helped all the people. In fact, I heard the Prime Minister say in Parliament this week that every business has had £25,000, which is...
Well, there we are.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? But, you know...
Checks in the post.
Yeah, it must have been. Come on, Posty, here we are. And still we can laugh about it, Mark. And I really want to say again, you're an amazing person. You know, I think the community that we've created in Excluded UK and created our own little exclusive bit of society almost, that was one of the reasons that we didn't want anybody to feel left out alone at a time when
that's it. That's what does it for me. You know, one way or the other I'll survive, but I just, goodness me, let's look after everybody. Let's make sure nobody gets left. It's
simple, not complicated.
Simple.
Thank
anyway,
you.
Rachel, you're doing a fantastic job, and I can't personally thank you enough, and I'm sure there's millions of others when I say that to you. So thank you.
I think we're saying, like, we really want the government to right this wrong, and we're giving them a chance to do that. But if nothing else has come of this, I think it's proven that people can come together for a greater good. They can raise their voices. They can look for justice and equality. If it doesn't come, then at least we can all say, you know, we tried to do the right thing.
We tried. And the last note is, I suppose, and we know what we'll be doing next election day.
Yeah, and on that note, I gotta say, I can't thank you enough. Thank you, Mark. That's another Raw and Real episode coming to an end. Thank you everybody for watching. As I say, we would love you to share this with your friends and family. A really powerful personal story from Mark tonight. I think it beautifully illustrates the challenges faced here by hardworking UK taxpayers, and we need to fix this problem. If you are watching this and you have been excluded, then obviously come over to the Facebook group and join our community. And if you're watching this and and you think you can offer some help, if you can get some more coverage, if you can continue to get awareness to the cause and get us heard, then drop us a line, be in touch. And I will be back tomorrow with another Raw and Real session. And thanks again, Mark. I'll see you inside the group.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.